The strange history of beans, from ancient food to longevity. Secret: this humble food helped feed entire civilizations, and it may have another secret. Long before supplements, before superfood powders, before anyone had heard the word longevity as a science, there was a small, unglamorous seed that quietly kept humanity alive. It grew in the soil of Mesoamerica, the hills of the Fertile Crescent, and the terraces of the Andes. It asked for little and gave back everything: protein, fiber, and, as it turns out, extra years of life. This is the strange, overlooked history of beans. Ancient origins beans are not a modern discovery. They are one of humanity's oldest cultivated foods, domesticated independently in at least two places on Earth, the Americas and the Near East, thousands of years before the pyramids were finished. In Mesoamerica, the common bean grew alongside corn and squash in what farmers called the Three Sisters. The corn gave the beans a stalk to climb. The beans, in turn, pulled nitrogen from the air and fed it back into the soil, a quiet act of reciprocity between plants that fed millions of people for generations. On the other side of the world, fava beans and lentils were feeding early farming communities in the Fertile Crescent as far back as 8,000 years ago. In Egypt, beans were found buried alongside pharaohs, a food considered worthy enough to accompany royalty into the afterlife. Beans were never a luxury. They were survival. And that may be exactly why they hold a secret. Modern science is only now beginning to take seriously. The longevity secret. Here's where the story gets interesting. Researchers studying the world's blue zones, the regions where people most reliably live past 100, noticed something they didn't expect. It wasn't a rare herb. It wasn't a miracle fruit. It was beans. In Okinawa, Japan, it was soybeans. In Icaria, Greece, it was black-eyed peas and lentils. In Nicoya, Costa Rica, it was black beans, eaten almost daily. In Sardinia, Italy, it was fava beans, stirred into minestrone for centuries. Dan Buettner, the researcher who popularized the blue zones concept, found that centenarians across every single blue zone shared one dietary habit in common: at least half a cup of beans a day, most days of their lives. Half a cup, not a supplement, not an extract, a humble bowl of beans. Why beans work. This humble food helped feed entire civilizations, and it may have another secret. The secret isn't exotic, it's structural. Beans are one of the few foods on Earth that combine slow-digesting complex carbohydrates, plant protein, and an unusually high load of soluble fiber, all in one package. That fiber feeds the bacteria in your gut that produce short-chain fatty acids, compounds increasingly linked to lower inflammation and better metabolic health. Beans also have a low glycemic index, meaning they release energy slowly instead of spiking blood sugar. Over decades, that steadiness may matter more than any single nutrient. It's one reason researchers believe legume-eating populations show lower rates of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And unlike many superfoods discovered in a lab, beans were never engineered for a headline. They simply worked quietly for thousands of years, long before anyone measured why. Closing thought. Maybe that's the real strangeness in this story. The people who lived longest didn't chase novelty. They kept eating what their grandparents ate, a food so ordinary it was almost invisible. Beans fed empires, and they may still be feeding the world's longest lives. If there's one ancient habit worth borrowing today, it might be sitting quietly in a pot on the stove,